Sign up with Webull and get up to 10 free fractional shares once you deposit $100 or more into your Webull account. Link will be in the description below. And moving forward, so where do I see Netflix going from here? And is it a buy? So first thing I want to talk about is basically looking at Netflix on the daily chart. On the daily chart, currently Netflix is below the 9-day moving average. If Netflix can break above the 9-day moving average, we could see Netflix try to break through that 20-day moving average and above these other moving averages. On the weekly chart, on same thing, basically on the weekly chart, the 200-day moving average is basically the resistance that Netflix needs to break, and once it breaks above the 200-day moving average, we can try to break that 180-day moving average. So pretty much looking, let's see, so this was Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, right? Okay. So looking at Netflix on Monday, so the way I saw Netflix on Monday was it pretty much had trouble throughout the whole day trying to break out that 9-day moving average. It was stuck under there the whole day. The next day, basically, I thought, to be honest with you, since I saw that the 9-day moving average started curling above these other two moving averages, the 20 and 50-day moving average, I thought we were going to see a huge reversal pretty much to the upside the whole day. That didn't happen. We saw a quick dip to the downside later in the middle of the day, and that's when finally, Netflix decided to break above the 9-day moving average. So we made it above those three moving averages. And then the next day, Wednesday, basically Netflix opened green. It was green in the pre-market. It was using the 20-day moving average as support, and basically it rode the 9-day moving average to the upside. Huge win for people who bought calls that day. But then in the middle of the day, Netflix, for some reason couldn't hold onto those gains. It broke the 9-day moving average, and then it broke the 20-day moving average, and it just collapsed pretty much the whole day towards the closing of the market that day. And then it's Thursday, right? Thursday, I don't know, but basically Netflix was a little choppy. The moving averages weren't that consistent to use. I mean, if you use the 180 and 200-day moving average to play, bounce call options, good for you. But to me, that day, looking at Netflix, I didn't really look at Netflix that day because I was like, it's so choppy. It looks so weird, and then the little wicks right here, I don't know. I just didn't like that day of Netflix. It was just really choppy. Friday was pretty good. Basically, once the market open, Netflix actually dropped all the way to 67.97, and I was kind of worried a bit because I was like, there's no way, it was riding the 20-day moving average in the pre-market. Why would it all of a sudden just give up its gains all of a sudden? Basically that I guess that fear came to an end, because then all of a sudden, Netflix decided to rebound from that low of 67.97, and it rode the 20 and 9-day moving average pretty much the whole day, and it finished in the green. And this is pretty much, out of the whole week, Friday was the most consistent where Netflix could finish in the green somewhat, and basically just rode the 9-day moving average for the whole entire day. Now, where do I see Netflix from here, right? Looking on the 4-hour time chart, so currently it is above the 50-day moving average. So if we can ride this momentum, trying to ride the 9-day moving average and 20-day moving average, we can approach the possibly by next week we could approach the 73 number, or possibly approach the 180-day moving average. So we'll have to see what happens for next week. Now, something I do want to talk about is Netflix earnings, right? So Netflix, they reported earnings per share 80 cents versus 79 cents estimated. The revenue they reported was $12.56 billion versus 12.59 billion estimated. So they missed on revenue, right? But Netflix reported 12.56 billion in revenue, up 13% year over year, and just slightly missing analyst expectations. To me, I feel like they missed revenue. To me, it wasn't that much of a big deal. The next thing I do want to focus on is that look at their cash flow. So their cash flow, yearly cash flow. Let's see. So their operating cash flow, basically 2022, 2023. You get the point. It's been increasing, and the more operating cash flow that comes into the business, the more business expansion is the more business opportunities they can make happen. And basically, if you don't know, Netflix was gonna buy Warner Brothers this year. It happened. Let's see. I think if I remember, it was happening around February, and then basically on the 26th, there was I would say more the news of Netflix trying to buy Warner Brothers happened around the 24th or earlier, but the market didn't really react to that news yet. And so basically, I would say on the 25th is when the market started reacting to Netflix, being interested in buying Warner Brothers. And that's when Netflix started, saw a huge move to the upside. And then basically they terminated, their deal with Warner Brothers, and they did not want to buy Warner Brothers anymore. Let's say if Netflix were to merge with Warner Brothers, right? Okay, if this news had came out of Netflix, not being able to merge with Warner Brothers, dude, this Netflix would have been all the way maybe I don't know, maybe at 16. I wouldn't say that 16, but maybe in the $30 range, if that was the case. If the judge were to come out with that news saying, "Oh yeah, you guys can't merge together," because look at what's it called, Warner Bros. I think it's these guys. I think because when that news came out, the next day they dropped 3%, and they still haven't been able to recover. To be honest, I feel like maybe they'll see more downside. I don't know, but we'll have to see. But imagine if if Netflix and Warner Brothers merged, and then they want to merge, and then a federal judge says, "Yeah, you guys can't merge. Fuck that deal." And Netflix would have taken even a worse. If you think this is awful, imagine what would have happened if the judge, if Netflix merged with Warner Brothers, or if they bought Warner Brothers. These guys would be like shit right now. They'd probably be worth $30 by now if that were to happen. So honestly, I see the this play of Netflix being oversold, because I feel like people are really just dragging this to related to the not able to execute that deal with Warner Brothers. And then there was a couple deals that I think they wanted to do, which was with Roku, and I think was with Fox or something like that. I don't know, but they wanted to buy Roku. That deal didn't go through. That also made the stock decline in a way too. So I feel like in a way Netflix, to me personally, is at a good value for what it is right now. Their earnings, they're not too too good, too bad either. I'd say it's somewhat in the middle. This deal, I would say, let's see, I remember this scenario happening with Facebook. I'm not sure if you guys been in the market longer than I have, but I do remember a time where Meta was almost at $87 or $100, you could say. And if I remember, I think it was because they were spending so much money on like the AI land or something like that, some like sandbox land that they wanted to do. And I think they were just losing a bunch of money on it, and basically everyone started dumping Meta like crazy. And so basically, from what I see here, is that it's the same scenario with Netflix. Yeah, a lot of people are saying that the company is, maturing in a way. The growth story is no longer happening, but I feel like eventually you know, that story is going to get outplayed. Eventually people are going to realize that. I guess we do have to realize that, Netflix is a mature company now. The growth story is over. That's not a bad thing, as long as they can report consistent, earnings where, the revenue is growing year by year and their cash flow is, in the positive, then everything should be good, and you know what I mean? So I feel like this is a meta situation in a way. And also remember this other stock. I don't remember which mega cap stock that was, but to this day I do remember that Meta, was facing like big, losses to the downside, and then all of a sudden, oh wow, Meta is all the way up to what, $500, worth $500. That is insane. So people who got into Meta when most people were too scared to even touch Meta, when they were losing money on their, expenditures of what they were trying to do with the business. Look at these people now. Those people are, probably fucking millionaires. So we'll see what happens from here. I do believe in Netflix. I believe if the growth story is over, cool. It is what it is. That means they're a maturing company. It's a company that's probably going to be consistent for a while, as long as they got positive, cash flow coming in, and it's increasing. Cool. That means they can have more exponential ideas to capitalize on the market. That's the way I see it. But I'll keep you guys updated. That's my thoughts on Netflix. We'll see what happens this upcoming week. Hopefully, we can see Netflix go up from here. The way I see it is that Netflix is a long-term play. So I would say that, by the end of this year, maybe, I don't know, Netflix could see possibly the $100 range price target. I don't know. We'll have to see. So that is pretty much it. Peace.